Now, Sports Talk with Broads. Here's Hunter Brody.
What is going on, everyone? Throughout this time, this very weird time when it comes to sports, it's so hard to come up with what conversations to talk about. What is there to even break down? And I was talking to a couple of my buddies about what the Eagles should do in the draft. Should they trade up? That was the question. Should they trade up? Should they package some other draft picks that they have to go up and acquire someone like Jerry Jeudy, or to go out and make a splash to get this big-time receiver? And while that sounds great to me, it does. It sounds awesome to go out and get a guy like Jerry Jeudy, who you know will be a stud and who can totally help out Carson Wentz. I'm not willing to package up a second rounder, a third rounder. Right now, I'm all in on getting a ton of players, filling as many holes as possible, getting younger in so many different positions, to the point where I believe it's totally okay to stay at 21, get your wide receiver there, and then keep your other draft picks. And when I look around the league and I think about receivers who win Super Bowls, and this was a conversation a couple of years ago when looking at what Tom Brady has done. Even though we were talking about the best quarterback in the world, you can also look in other situations and say, when teams make it to these Super Bowls, when squads go on these big-time runs, do they have these elite big-time wide receivers? The problem that I have when it comes to this situation right here, when it comes to defending my point on it's not worth getting these big-time wide receivers, you won't have to pay them instantly. Getting a guy in the first round, going up and getting a Jerry Jeudy, it's not like when it comes to the salary cap, you got to give out a big-ass payday. So from that circumstance, okay, it's not a huge deal financially right now in the moment. But when you look at Odell Beckham Jr., when you look at DeAndre Hopkins, when you look at some of these bigger paid guys, Mike Evans, Brandon Cooks, Adam Thielen, these are the top paid wide receivers in the league. It doesn't always result in championships, and to be honest with you, it doesn't result in championships. Julio Jones is a name, and they should have had one, but he's also at the top of the league. AJ Green, he's another name. So these big-time, obnoxiously paid wide receivers, because of their talent, it doesn't result in winning championships, is my point. Now, with that being said, yes, Jerry Jeudy will be a guy who can totally be an X factor for a team, and he could win a Super Bowl. He can be a guy that is so powerful and lethal to an offense. I'm not trying to tell you that these top receivers in the draft aren't going to help an organization. It's clear as day that they are going to help an organization. But when you look at Super Bowl winning teams and you look in their roster and you look at how much their best wide receiver is paid, it's not at this elite level. So when you look at what you need to win a championship, it doesn't have to be the best wide receivers ever. They need to upgrade. They need to draft wide receivers. They have to get better. I'm trying to tell you, though, that they do not need to go out and grab these big-time guys, and that's the only way that they can be successful. They literally won the Super Bowl with Alshon Jeffrey as their best wide receiver. Who else was out there? Torrey Smith? Nelson Aguilar had a good season that year, his only good season, but he absolutely played well in the slot. You don't need that insane guy. So when it comes to having two options on the table, acquire a Jerry Jeudy, go up and make the trade, move your second round pick to move up a couple picks, I feel as if I would rather stay at 21 than use your second round pick on maybe another wide receiver, or use it for another position so then in your third round you can go out and get another wide receiver. I'm all about quantity. Not just anyone, though. It needs to be good quantity, but if you can go out and pick up 4 good players, or you can go out and get one superstar wide receiver and then you don't fill other voids except for that one, I don't know if I would go that route, because then, as I talk about the money part of this and the financial part of this, then eventually he will be getting paid Thielen money, Cooks money, DeAndre Hopkins money, and that doesn't correlate to winning championships when you have to put that much money of your salary cap into the wide receiver position, and that's just based off of statistics. I'm just basing that off of facts. I mean, you can look this up. You can look at the information. You can look at the Super Bowl winning teams. They do not have that big time paid wide receiver on their roster. So with that being said, that's what helps me come up with this decision that you don't need to go out and get the guy, that big time guy, and give up assets, other draft picks to go out and get him. I preface that all by saying, I really hope they don't go out and get Jefferson at 21 though. And it would suck if, after all this, after me claiming it's not worth going up and getting somebody, I don't want to land with Jefferson because he's probably going to thrive in the slot. And it just doesn't fit what the Eagles need right now. They need a speed guy. And they can get that. They can get that. And who's to say that they can't find a snag in the later rounds? That they can't find a snag at 21? You see it every year. Just because guys get picked high, it doesn't mean the guys that don't get picked as high don't succeed. DK Metcalf, for example. There's plenty of players. Antonio Brown is an example. There are plenty of players that fall in the draft and get picked up. It's just, can we trust Howie Roseman to do that? I feel as if everyone's so fascinated because of the struggles of stretching the field, because of the problems with this team last season where they were super slow. They couldn't really get behind cornerbacks. The offense struggled. There was barely any creativity. The fascination is all about that wide receiver. Go out and get the best guy in the world. You have to, you have to, you have to. And I'm here to say, I don't believe that you have to. Once again, those players are going to be good. They are absolutely going to be good. My point isn't that they are going to stink and there's no reason to trade up to go out and get that guy. I just feel as if you get quantity, really good quantity, you pick up some other positions, you get a reliable receiver at 21 as well, and from there you move forward as a team. And that can even come into play with this whole Zach Ertz, Dallas Goedert conversation that I feel like is so ridiculous that there's no way to keep both guys. You have to trade Zach Ertz. That's another fascination going on right now because I feel that the Eagles go out there and claim we got to get younger, we got to make the right decisions with certain players, that since Zach Ertz is 29, here comes this fascination with having to trade him. Get rid of him now. Go ahead. He's too old. He's going to be bad. There's no reason to pay him. Stop with that garbage. Just because you not trade Malcolm Jenkins, but get rid of Malcolm Jenkins and move on from other guys because of their age, doesn't mean that's every single person ever who hits a certain age. I mean, at some point, you are going to have career Eagle guys. You are going to have Hall of Fame type players that stick around with this organization, and Zach Ertz is definitely one of them. He is the best player on the team. He is literally the best player on the football team. There is no reason to trade him, and there's a way to keep both him and Dallas Goedert. I've been talking about the money. I've been talking about the contracts. Well, yeah, Zach Ertz is going to get paid. He's going to get a hefty payday, and I'm sure it'll work with Howie Roseman as well because he wants to be here in this city. He feels the emotional tie. He absolutely absorbs what this city is, which is great. So I'm sure he will have some sort of communication and work together with Howie Roseman to get it done. While he gets paid, while Dallas Goedert is going to eventually get paid, you get rid of these contracts. You get rid of these older veterans. And then you pick up on these draft picks who no longer need to get paid the type of money that these veterans are getting paid that will eventually not be here. And then it all works out. Also, you have a couple years until that decision comes. You don't have to give Dallas Goedert money anytime soon. You let his contract run out. You franchise tag him. I don't understand this obsession with getting rid of Zach Ertz. Why? I mean, this is literally a guy that you can trust. He's one of the best tight ends in football. The league has become a tight end league. You can totally have Dallas Goedert and Zach Ertz in the 12 personnel set a lot of the times. You can have two lethal tight ends. I don't get why people believe, that it's a waste to have Dallas Goedert, that Dallas Goedert is a luxury. You don't make the move to acquire Dallas Goedert if you feel a couple years down the road, we're just going to get rid of him anyway because of Zach Ertz. Or you don't just draft Dallas Goedert thinking, we're going to trade Zach Ertz anyway. No, you can have both guys and they can be lethal weapons to this offense, along with Deshaun Jackson if he can stay healthy, along with some of these draft picks that you acquire. Actually, when I mentioned Deshaun Jackson, he's not going to be here for much longer. So in terms of the big plan with these two tight ends, Deshaun Jackson will be out of the picture at that time. There was something interesting that I heard on ESPN the other day, and it was trending all over Twitter, and it had to do with Greeny. And he mentioned how he believes the Philadelphia Eagles can be the number one team in the NFC. And his theory was pretty much the other divisions are going to beat up on each other. You got the NFC South that has powerful teams now. You got Tom Brady in the mix, who's definitely going to make that more entertaining for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, along with what's Teddy Bridgewater or Matt Rule going to do. The New Orleans Saints. We know Drew Brees is one of the best. Sean Payton, Malcolm Jenkins now. Then you look at the NFC North. You got Green Bay. You got Minnesota. Who knows what Nick Foles is going to do with Chicago? You got the West with the 49ers, the Seattle Seahawks. There are teams out there that are going to be beating up on each other. But when he specifically looks at the NFC East, he sees one team that has a head coach who has been here for a while. And the Dallas Cowboys are new. The New York Giants are new. They have Daniel Jones and a new special teams head coach. The Washington Redskins are going through a whole new personality change with Ron Rivera. He believes because of that, because of everything I just laid out, the Eagles will be the top seed in the NFC. And I like the optimism, but for as much as I bash ESPN, I'm not just going to put my feet up and embrace everything when it's good for the team that I support. Similar to Pro Football Focus, when they put out these garbage rankings, all I do is rip them apart. And I deserve to rip them apart because they are garbage rankings. Well, when somebody says something on ESPN and these talking heads talk good about the Eagles, I'm not automatically going to jump right in and claim it's the best thing in the world either. I totally disagree with Greeny, to be honest with you. I don't see the Eagles as a team that's going to be the best team in the NFC East. He talked about how they're going to run the table in the division. Since when? I mean, they never run the table in the division. You're just going to plan as if the Cowboys won't win a game at all. He claims that the Cowboys are taking a step back. Maybe they do. They did lose some pieces on the defense. They also tried to replenish them as well. They get a head coach who actually won something in this league, although the back end of his tenure in Green Bay was somewhat disappointing. The Dallas Cowboys aren't going to stink, though. I don't get how the Eagles are now going to win the NFC. In his eyes, they're the best team in the NFC. At least they're going to have the best record based off of other divisions being so great. Here's who they play in 2020. On the road, they play the Cardinals, the Browns, the Packers, Steelers, and 49ers. Okay. Now, they can win those games, sure. I'm not claiming they can't. They went into Green Bay last year on a short week. They beat the Packers. I mean, they had some good wins last year, some really tough losses as well, but they had some good wins. I'm not trying to make it seem the Eagles can't win football games. Just because they have tough games on the road, they can win tough games on the road. I've seen them. But when you look at their home schedule, they play the Ravens, the Bengals, the Rams, Saints, Seattle. So outside of the NFC East, they have some brutal opponents. They have some top talented opponents that they either have to play away from the Link or even home at the Link. But my point is they have some serious problems coming to town and they need to travel to. So to think that the Eagles are just going to walk all over the NFC East without a problem at all and then just be totally fine. Like, they're going to have a significant amount of wins against the non-NFC East opponents to win the NFC and be the best team in the league after the regular season. I just can't put two and two together. This team has openly taken somewhat of a step backwards, and it's not a big step backwards. I guess it's a step backwards in terms of going into the season thinking they were going to win the Super Bowl. They went 9-7 last year and lost in the first round. That's in the ballpark of what I believe this team is going to be. A division-winning team by going maybe 10-6, and then they could win a wild card game, and then maybe lose from there. I mean, that's the type of team that I see this year. I see them making the playoffs, maybe winning a football game. I absolutely cannot put them at the top of the NFC after the regular season. It's just not the way I feel, and I'm not sold on this product to be that. You can believe that if you are the Seattle Seahawks, if you're the 49ers, if you're the New Orleans Saints. Sure, I'm talking about an Eagles team that I think can win 10 football games in that area. That's okay. I mean, that's okay for what this team is openly doing, getting younger, moving on from some veteran pieces, but still competing. It's competing, but getting younger and building for the future and getting young guys who are going to be on rookie contracts, because now you factor in the Zach Ertz potential signing and contract extension. Now Carson Wentz, his money's going to be kicking in. That big-time contract will be kicking in. Darius Slay is going to be, not this year, but the year after, his extension kicks in. So you got to get younger. You got to get these kids going. And then there's a growing period stage where these players need to grow, learn the league, experience what it's like. It's a totally different beast. Speaking of Darius Slay, though, he had a conference call, and it was just fun to hear what he had to say, talking about how he wants the game on him. He wants to be the guy that's matched up against the other team's best wide receivers, and that's not shocking news. That's not stunning to hear, but it's nice to hear. It's nice to see a cornerback with legit swag who has experience to back it up, who has been around the league, who has done damage against top receivers already. He has just a background where him saying these words, it's supported by play. And I can't wait to see it in action. I just love everything about his personality, how he has embraced this city. He knows Jim Schwartz. And ironically enough, Zach Ertz was taken right before Darius Slay, and bang, right after that, there goes the Lions making that pick. I just feel like now with this legit cornerback on the defense, it's going to be a really fun thing to experience this season coming up, if there is a season coming up. Now, I'm pretty sure I did talk about this before, but I'm going through the Eagles season on NFL Game Pass because NFL, during this corona time, they decided to allow everyone to watch games, no commercials. It's kind of great. You can get through a football game in about 2 hours and 15 minutes or so, and I'm just grinding out the regular season, even the tough losses. Kind of like a film study, if you will, going through the players, watching some of the plays. Doug Peterson had some really bad play calls, but he also had some decent moments in there. Carson Wentz with some ugly first halves, but with some really solid second halves. That one play that really stands out to me against the Atlanta Falcons I saw recently after a really piss-poor start to the football game. That second half was absolutely electric, and he's going down on his knees, and his knees are about a half an inch from touching the ground, and he releases the football. He also hit Nelson Aguilar right in the fingertips before he blew it and dropped the ball. It was just crazy to see some of these great plays and some of the really ugly ones. Getting to where I wanted to take this, though, J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, I am just, he makes my blood boil. Gabe Kapler was a guy that I just couldn't stand. Every time he spoke, every time I saw him, I felt irritated. I was bothered. It hurt me inside for some reason, just looking at the guy. He was a hate the face. J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, to me, just kills me. And I'm watching these games, and I'm watching him run routes, and I'm watching him make mistakes after mistakes after mistakes. And I am the biggest supporter in pro sports of developing. I love seeing development. I understand the process of developing. I just talked about this with rookies that they draft this season. I talk about it with Ben Simmons all the time. When he's 27 to 33, he's going to dominate the NBA. He's just going through growing pains at this very moment. When I watch JJ Arcega-Whiteside, though, there's something that tells me he just doesn't get it. He just doesn't understand. He was drafted too high. Not his fault. It's not his fault that a team picked him way too high, but he just doesn't get it. He doesn't run routes properly, and it's not like there are mistakes where it's like, that's a rookie mistake, don't worry about it. He looks so lost, so clueless. It's embarrassing. He's running into teammates. He's not breaking at the right time, and when he does break, it's super slow. He just doesn't get it. Now, I hope he shuts me the hell up and dominates and is just fantastic this season. But from what I saw and when I'm rewatching this, it is so ugly. It's hard to think that he can just learn everything over. He can just figure out how to change and be a reliable source. He had one preseason game last year where he had over 100 yards. We were all cheering, yeah, this is going to be Alshon. Think about the red zone. Think about the red zone where Ertz, Goedert, Alshon, right? We were talking about it all the time. Jordan Howard being a beast who could just run the football right through. He is tough to watch. Just like I don't think Gabe Kapler is going to learn as a manager. He is what he is. JJ Arcega-Whiteside, to me, it just seems like he is what he is. And I would love to be wrong. I would love to be wrong. I just don't see it. I don't feel it. I don't feel it. Some games that I'm going through from last year, Derek Barnett made some big-time noise. And I've been someone who's been very critical on Derek Barnett. And I think it's fair to say that even though he had some decent moments last year, he didn't live up to the hype of Reggie White of Tennessee. Not that we ever expected him to be literally Reggie White at the NFL level. He had some good moments last year. He had some really nice plays, and he did have some games where he was noticeable. Still underwhelming to me, though, and I just see him as a starting defensive end. He was taken middle of the first round. Starting defensive end, I think I need more than that. And I wonder what his value is around the league. I don't know if many guys are chomping at the bits for a Derek Barnett. And I don't see the Eagles moving on from him either, to be fair. It would go against them supporting one of their own draft picks, and that would be a tough look for someone like Howie Roseman, who is on the hot seat when it comes to the draft. Not actually getting fired, although that's an interesting conversation to have. How much time does Howie Roseman have? What is his table like? What is his timeline like? It's a very interesting question. But in terms of the drafting, I think that is a reasonable conversation to have. He doesn't draft very well. Would it look good if they moved on from Derek Barnett? I don't think they're going to at all. Like, there's no rumors about it. There's no conversations about it. When I brought up Yannick Ngakoue, though, a few weeks back, and there still seems to be some sort of disconnect between him and the Jags, and he's putting up pictures of Brian Dawkins, I was seeing maybe, is it possible that Derek Barnett could be in the move to go out and get a Yannick Ngakoue, because at least that fills the void for the Jaguars and they can replenish their defensive end locker room, but it doesn't seem like that is really the case. And I like Yannick Ngakoue, I really do. I think that's something that this defense needs. It's the identity of the football team. Looking at, though, the contracts and Carson Wentz, Darius Slay, Brandon Graham, and you got some other guys, Zach Ertz, that are going to start kicking in if they do get that extension done. You might not be able to add a $20+ million per year guy. As much as I think he is game-changing and a dude that this team can really succeed with, because you're talking about Fletcher Cox, Malik Jackson, Hargrave, and then Brandon Graham. You got some nice looking pieces there. To add someone like Yannick Ngakoue would be unreal financially, although we're talking about Howie Roseman with the type of background he has moving money around. That's the best part of what he does. That's what he can bring to the table at an elite level. Maybe he could make it happen. I just don't see it at this point. It might be possible as this continues, as Yannick Ngakoue's personality keeps coming out and his frustration and how open he is about it continues, maybe by draft time it's a different story. Maybe the Jags are trying to hold on for leverage as much as possible and eventually going to get rid of him when the right package comes, and they're just waiting and teasing guys and taking more GM phone calls to see what's the best package that they can possibly get. With that being said, thank you guys so much for watching. Hit that thumbs up button and subscribe. I would love to hear your thoughts down below. And I will see you next time.